We're going to pick up today where we left off in Matthew chapter 10. And before it gets put up, okay, good, she didn't put up. Before it gets put up, I just want to kind of both recap, and then I'm going to have a couple questions for you. So the quick recap is just where we left off. Jesus is giving instructions to his disciples, right? He assembled the 12 and he said, this is what I need you to do. And he ended where we ended off last week as we were talking about the idea about how valuable we are, and that and of course at the end of chapter 9, Jesus has given us the instruction that the workers are few and we need to send people out. And then he's given them this instruction and saying, you are so valuable, I'll take care of you, don't worry about this stuff, just go out and do it. Right? I need you to go out and do it. Now, and then I purposely ended there because I knew that what we were about to get into, what we're going to talk about this week, this is like a whole other category. And this is something that I feel like I don't really hear taught much in certainly evangelical churches, although I would say churches in general, because this tends to be a more unpopular topic. And that's because when we like to think of Jesus, what do we think about when we think about Jesus, right? We just finished singing about Jesus, and we sing about grace and love. What are the kinds of things that you guys think of when we talk about Jesus, like and when Jesus walked around this earth? What do you think, Claire? Yeah, like a halo, right? What do you think, Seth? Yeah, dying on the cross, right? We remember a lot of these good things about Jesus, and our world, like let's face it, our world likes to think of Jesus as like a hippie, right? Who remembers? Do you guys remember? It was probably. I think most of you, except for the young ones, sorry. If you're under 20, you're not going to remember this. But who remembers like the Jesus is my homeboy t-shirts? Do you guys remember those? Yeah. Yeah, like, do you remember those? And people would wear them around, and it was just kind of like, we had this strange idea about who Jesus was. And we've made Jesus out to be this one thing. And the reason I want to lead us off with this is because I want us to really be paying attention, because these are the words of Jesus that were recorded, right, in the book of Matthew. It starts here in verse 34. Do not suppose, this is Jesus speaking, do not suppose I have come to bring peace to the earth. I did not come to bring peace, but a sword. For I have come to turn a man against his father, a daughter against her mother, a daughter-in-law against her mother-in-law, and a man's enemies will be the members of his own household. These are Jesus' words. Well, the first part is Jesus' words. The second part, you'll notice it's a little less obvious when we have it put up on the screen. If you're following along in your own Bible, you'll notice that is a quotation, right? Verses 35 to 36 there are a quotation, and it comes from the book of Micah. And the reason I wanted to take some time to point this out is how often do we like to envision Jesus as this warrior, right? It says he didn't come to bring peace. What is he getting at? What is Jesus talking about? Wait a minute. How can Jesus be going around and he's healing the sick, and he's raising the dead, and he's curing the blind? He's doing all these amazing, wonderful things, and you know he's teaching people about the Father. What does he mean by, I didn't come to bring peace, I came to bring the sword? And I think this goes back to what we were talking about, by the way, all the way back at the Sermon on the Mount. Who inherits the earth? The meek. And I always like to say, he said the meek, not the weak. There's a difference. Because the meek have a sword. The meek are prepared. The meek go out and they're ready to stand firm in what they believe, and they're not willing to back down. And I want us to think about this, and I'm also going to get Rebecca, if you can put up the quotation from Micah right now. Because as I've said so many times before, when Jesus gives one verse of the Bible, right, we hear the one verse because we're not Jewish and we don't have it pounded into us by the time we're 12 years old, and we don't have absolutely every, all the Torah memorized and stuff like that. But when the Jews heard this, they knew exactly what Jesus was saying. When Jesus quotes the top part, for a son dishonors his father, a daughter rises up against her mother, a daughter-in-law against her mother-in-law, a man's enemy. And by the way, if you read the previous 5 verses, it's a lot worse. This is describing what's going to be happening to Israel and how things are going to get really, really bad. And everyone's going to be tearing each other apart. And then it ends that section with verse 7. But as for me, I watch in hope for the Lord. I wait for my God, for God, my Savior, my God will hear me. When the people of Israel were standing before, or when Jesus was standing before the people of Israel, and he's teaching, and he's standing before the disciples, especially at this point, and he's teaching them this, and he's saying, look, I didn't come for peace, I came for a sword. What is he saying? I didn't come to compromise. Now, this is one of the things, and I've had a lot of different conversations with a lot of different people from different denominations, and certainly with non-Christians. And they'll ask me questions like, wait a minute, and I'm sure many of you have heard this, right? And they'll say, wait a minute, why are there so many different denominations, right? And typically I describe denominations in this way. I say denominations tend to be like ice cream, right? They're all ice cream, but they got like a little bit of a different flavor. However, every so often, there's a sherbet in there. And you know what? Sherbet's not ice cream. I'm passionate about that. See, sherbet is the compromise. Sherbet is the thing where it says, I'm going to pretend to be one thing, but I'm not actually going to be it. And each and every one and so I've had this conversation with people before, and I'll say, yes, there are certain denominations where they've compromised so much with the world. They didn't come with a sword. They didn't come to stand firm. They didn't come to stand for truth and stand for what they believe in. They compromised away their faith. And Jesus is saying, that's not what this is about. Right? I can understand that there's a difference in distinction because, one group of people thinks that Jesus meant this, one group of people thinks Jesus meant this, right? You have old and young earth people, you have post, pre, and mid-tribulation people, right? We have different people that believe different things about different doctrines of the Bible, but at the end of the day, we all hold to one core truth, and that core truth is that what Jesus did is come and die on the cross, that he came to deliver us from our sins, and guess what? If we don't get the details right, that's okay. But when we compromise on the core, this is the issue. And what Jesus said is his truth is going to be so powerful. The truth of the Bible is going to be so great. And we see this, by the way. Maybe you guys haven't seen it here personally, but many here can probably attest to seeing this very thing. That when people convert, when people change, when people accept the gospel, families will turn on family. People will turn on each other. Because the enemy of truth is the world. Right? We live in the enemy's world, right? The prince of darkness rules this world. We live in his world right now. And it's not until the day that Jesus comes, and he comes with a sword, by the way. I'm not sure if you guys have ever read Revelation, I believe it's 19. Jesus comes with a sword, not in peace. He doesn't wave a white banner and say, hey, let's all be friends. He comes and he says, no, in the name of truth and justice, let it be done. Verse 37, let's pick up verse 37 in Matthew 10. Anyone who loves their father or mother more than me is not worthy of me. Anyone who loves their son or daughter more than me is not worthy of me. Whoever does not take up their cross and follow me is not worthy of me. Whoever finds their life will lose it. Whoever loses their life for my sake will find it. Anyone who welcomes you welcomes me. Anyone who welcomes me welcomes the one who sent me. Whoever welcomes a prophet as a prophet will receive a prophet's reward. Whoever welcomes a righteous person as a righteous person will receive a righteous person's reward. And if anyone gives even a cup of cold water to one of the little ones who is my disciple, truly I tell you that person will certainly not lose their reward. Now, I want it to be very clear, because I feel like this is one of those things that certain bad teachers will use to dissuade people. Number one, what is Jesus saying and not saying? I think what Jesus is saying is we got to put him above everything. Above your parents, above your spouse, above your children. And for anyone here who's got kids, right, all us parents, we know that moment that we held our little one for the first time, and when we looked down into their precious little face, we knew there was nothing we wouldn't do, up to and including murder, okay? We love those children so much. And what Jesus is saying is, you have to love me more. Now, does that mean we don't love our children that much? No, that's not what he's saying. This is why I want it to be clear. That loving your children that much is good. Why is it that one of the 10 commandments is honor your mother and father? Because we're meant to show them respect and honor that they are deserved, right? Our parents we're not meant to have strife between us as family. So I want it to be clear, when Jesus is talking about these things, he's not saying those things like the father, the man against his father, the daughter against her mother. He's not saying those are good things. He's saying these will happen as a result. But that the good thing to do, that a good Christian, what we are called to do, what we are called to live up to, is we are, yes, meant to love our children as passionately as we do. We are meant to love and respect our parents, love and respect our neighbors. Right? What is it? What is the second greatest command of all time? It was to love your neighbor as yourself. We are to take care of our neighbors, take care of the people around us as well as we would take care of ourselves. Which I guess, unfortunately, for some people would not be very good. Isn't it interesting how the person that we take care of the least is usually ourselves? But here's the thing. What Jesus is getting at here, and he's going to spell out very clearly later on when the Pharisees come before him, is the greatest commandment, the first commandment, the commandment above all commandments, is to love the Lord your God with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength. Because the fact of the matter, and we talked about this last week when I asked you, like, where do you put your fear? Where do you recognize where who has the power and the authority? Who has this? Because here's the thing, you would never walk into a court of law and disrespect the judge. But yet, day after day, we are walking into the Lord's world, and we will often choose against him, disrespect him. Now, I'm not trying to say we got to be perfect, right? I want it to be clear, because this is one of the problems that I think so much of our world has. When they're looking at Christianity and they hear us talking about, yeah, we need to try and be good people. Yes, we do need to try and be good people. But they think we're trying to do it to earn some sort of points, get some sort of tally going in order to get into heaven. And I said, yeah, well, you know what? There are religions that do that. If you want to build up your karma and be, better off in the next life, you got Hindu. If you want to earn some brownie points and hope that the prophet is going to give you good admittance and he's going to think you're a good guy, you got Islam. But if you want the truth of this world, the truth that comes from Jesus Christ, the truth of Jesus Christ is that not one of us, not a single one, is righteous enough to enter into the kingdom of heaven absent the shed blood of Jesus Christ. Every single one of us needs that. And we don't do what we do. We don't seek what we seek. We don't live the way we live because we're trying to earn the favor of our Lord. We're doing it because we are grateful and we want to show our gratitude, our love, our affection to God. We want to recognize his power, his authority over us. And by recognizing it, we submit ourselves to his authority. The man who could speak and made waves stop. The man who spoke and made the blind see. The man who spoke and the demons were drove out. The man who spoke and the lame walked. This is the type of authority that I choose to serve. And Jesus said, I did not come to bring peace but a sword. This is important for us because I think this has become a real thing. And I feel like forces outside Christianity press us with this more than Christians do themselves. But they'll be like, no, your Jesus said to love, and what you're doing is unloving. Now, I think that's because we've got a twisted, distorted, perverted view of love in the culture today. Love isn't just being nice to people. Love is when we discipline our children because we want them to be better. Love is sometimes saying the hard thing, doing the hard thing, because we know it would be good for the people that we care about. Love, as I've explained to my own daughter many times, is a difficult choice. But it's something that we persevere. It's more than feelings. It's more than that, that nice feeling that you get on the inside. And we have to remember that if we're going to be translating the Bible, we need to understand the Bible through the Bible's lens, not through our 21st century lens. When Jesus is calling and he's saying, look, I've asked you, I came not to bring peace but a sword. He's saying, yeah, I didn't come to compromise. I came to stand firm in what I believed. I came to stand firm for the truth. I am not going to back down. I'm not going to turn away. What happened when Jesus shows up to the temple? Jesus gets mad at the moneylenders. Jesus upturns their tables, makes a whip, and drives them out. Why? Because this is a house of worship. Not only that, unlike today, right? Where can you worship Jesus today? You can go anywhere in the world. But back then, there was one place in the entire planet where you could go to worship God. And that was Jerusalem. That was it. You wanted to make sacrifice, you wanted to honor God, you wanted to, bring fellowship, or you wanted to offer forgiveness or offer shed blood for the forgiveness of sins. There was one place on the planet that you could go, and that was Jerusalem. And what were they doing in that one place? They were filling it full of people changing over money. They were filling it full of people selling animals. Instead of making room for people who wanted to come and spend time in fellowship for the Lord. You imagine you come and you want to spend some time to worship in church, and instead I've taken the time to set up all these different vendors. Maybe they're all good things, Oh, yeah, they'll help you with this and they'll help you with this, but there's no room for anyone to worship. Right? This is what Jesus is so mad about, because he said, no. I didn't come to compromise. I came to stand firm in truth. I didn't come to I didn't come to wash out my message. I came to declare boldly the truth. But that doesn't mean, of course, being hateful. This is one of the things that I've been thinking a lot about as we, of course, approach June once again. And of course, I have a fundamental disagreement with what our world has decided to celebrate and worship at the foot of. Not because of people that are confused about their identity, although I would say right here, Jesus was very close, very close, very clear. It's not about trying to find ourselves. It's about giving up ourselves to serve him. It's about giving up our life to say, you know what? It doesn't matter what I want. It doesn't matter what I desire. I'm going to live a life dedicated to him. But this is one of the reasons why I know our society is not very healthy. What is the celebration for a month long? It's about pride. Pride is I'll call pride is the cornerstone to destruction. You want to make sure that your society is about to crumble? Boast. You want to think and here's the thing, right? We say these things and we talk about these things, and it's funny because I find when we talk about it in a nebulous concept, it's sometimes difficult for people to understand. But we've all been to a social gathering, maybe it was like a family event or a work party or something like that, and there's that one guy. Everyone knows who this person is, and they're sitting there talking about all the stuff they did that year and how good they are, and look at what I have accomplished, and look at what I'm able to do. And how does everyone feel about that person? They're like, man, won't they just shut up? Like, they're just go blah, 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 blah. No one cares. It's funny how we are able to sense and detect how negative this thing is, how wrong it is, and yet at the same time it is so tempting for us to be carried down the exact same path, to do the same things. And I think this is why Jesus is quoting from Micah right here. This is why Jesus is saying these are the things that are going to happen. He's revealing to us, guess what? It has been said before, and I say it again now. There will be a time that's coming where man will be against father, daughter against mother, daughter-in-law against mother-in-law, and a man's enemies will be the members in his own house. Why? Because when the truth of God is standing firm, when we stand firm to the truth of the gospel of Jesus Christ, it does cause people to get upset. But the question we have to ask ourselves is, as I said last week, who is the ultimate authority? Who has the ultimate power? And if we're going to come and stand before the Lord today, if we're going to look at what he said to his disciples, and if we're going to see what the disciples were asked to do, and what the disciples' disciples were asked to do, and what the disciples' disciples were asked to do, guess what? Down the line, it eventually comes to us, and Jesus is asking us, hey, are you going to stand firm? Are you going to defend what you believe in? Even with the sword? Are you going to stand strong? Or are you going to compromise away your faith? Because, friends, we have great examples of that happening. And I'll tell you, most of those churches are closed to this day and will never reopen. Because when you compromise, when you give up the truth, you can feel it, right? You can feel it. You're like, there's something wrong here. And people will move on. It's popular for a time, it's popular for a moment, and unfortunately I'm seeing it more and more and more these days, where people are just more and more and more willing to compromise the faith. I shockingly saw a pastor this week say that the Bible has become so problematic we need a third testament. And I want to tell you, if you think the Bible is problematic, you don't realize that Jesus is the solution. The world's got a whole lot of problems. And there's not one person in this country, in this town, in this community who would disagree with that notion. You tell them, hey, the world's got problems, they'll be like, yeah, we got some big problems. The difference is we know the answer. But I love that Jesus put it in that way. Hey, I didn't come to bring peace. I came to stir the pot. And that's exactly what Jesus did. Hey, I didn't come to tell people, hey, if you do these 3 simple things, life will go good for you. I came to tell you, look, there is one way out of this. It's going to be hard. It's going to be a challenge. There's going to be casualties. But I love you guys too much to lie to you. Do we love the people around us too much to lie to them? Do we love them in the real way, in the way that the Bible outlines, in the way that the Bible talks about, or do we love them in the way of the world where we just want them to feel good? Because that's a shield, that's a crutch. And it's not the thing that's going to change this world. Jesus is giving instructions because he wants them to change the world. And you're not going to change the world by telling the world, well, you're okay. You're doing okay. Just try and do this a little bit better. You change the world by saying, no, you're really messing up, and this is the way. You imagine you're training a new trainee at work there, John, and they're doing something ridiculous while they're working around on the locks, and they're going to get someone killed. Are you going to be gentle about it, or are you going to ream them out? Yeah, you're going to ream them out. Why? Because you don't want them to die. You don't want them to kill other people. This is how it is. And sometimes I think we forget that's what's on the line. Those are the stakes of our faith. We're not talking about whether or not your life is going to feel good for the rest of your life. We're talking about life or death situations. When people get out there and they go, I don't understand how a good God couldn't just save everybody. I'm going, that's because he's offering it to you and you're rejecting it. But I think it's because so many people don't understand the stakes. They don't realize what's on the line, and they don't realize what they need to do. And so as we get ready to go to our time of prayer, and as we're preparing for that, let's keep that in mind. Hey, are we willing to be uncompromising in our faith, or have we made too many compromises in our faith? Are we willing to stand for what we believe in? Are we willing to dedicate ourselves to the finding the answers of the questions that we don't know? Or are we going to allow ourselves to continually be one-upped by the world? Because the answers are there. And the leap of faith, as I tell people, isn't as big of a leap as people think it is. There is an element of faith. There is an element of trust, but it's not that great. It's much like each and every one of you. I'm pretty sure all of you have counted on the fact that gravity hasn't turned off yet today. Could it turn off? Sure. Will it? Unlikely, but all of us count on it. It's not that big of a leap of faith, and we can get into that. And again, if there's ever any questions, if there's ever anything, something that someone's brought up to you and you're like, hey, I don't know how to answer this, talk to people around here. There's people here that have answers. There's people here that can help you go through it. Rebecca brings stuff up to me all the time because she's got friends that are always asking her stuff. I got friends that are always asking me stuff, and I love to have these conversations with people because I think the more that we're able to stand up for truth, the more that we're able to stand up for the gospel, and we're able to say, hey, you know what? No, this is what it says. This is what I believe. Then the better off we are as a church, and the better off we are as a group of Christians, bringing more and more people into the faith.